Hey, what's up everyone? Your buddy Matt here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm presenting to you my newest acquisition, an early 80s Toro Groundsmaster 52. This crusty old beast right over here. Let's see if we can get it running. If that sounds good, stay tuned. All right, so I pulled all the loose stuff off. The previous owner told me that he had an issue with it. It did run, and then something about an electrical fire, maybe the starter, something like that. And he started taking stuff apart, namely this stuff over here, and he just kind of lost hope in the project. And I exchanged a bottle of tequila for this lovely old beast. So let's see what we got. 2,449.5 hours, can of Fruitopia and maybe some rat's nests, but everything kind of seems to be there. You know, it's one of those old 40-year-old projects that has a lot of neglect. I don't see any evidence of a fire. I see one solenoid here, and I see another solenoid here. If we're lucky, maybe it was just something silly like that. Yeah, a whole lot of junk. So let's see if we can clean all the leaves out of it. And oh no, more of this home electrical wiring. Yeah. Did I mention that the previous owner was my brother-in-law, the same guy that I got the old Cub Cadet from my other video, the Cub Cadet electrical problem video, and I see the same style of repairs. So yeah, let's see if we can get this old Briggs and Stratton roaring back to its former glory. And I might have some ideas of what I want to do with this thing. Most probably not going to use it as a lawn tractor, but we got to see if it runs first. All right, let's dive right in. All right, so that cleaned up well enough. While we have the air compressor, let's go ahead and put a bit of air in these tires, see if they hold any air. Give us a chance to start working on the machine, and yeah, see if they hold air. So they don't look well, they're not new, but they don't look that bad. I've seen much worse. So before we take a deep dive down the rabbit hole, let's just do a couple preliminary checks. First one being oil. That looks actually pretty good. Smells good, looks good, and the level is good. I didn't necessarily see any water. I mean, if there was a little bit of water, we wouldn't really see it, but I mean, if there was a lot of water down that engine. Sorry guys for the background noise. I'm doing this outside today because a little toasty in the old garage. So let's check the spark plug, second of all, see if there's anything evidentially wrong with it. Gives us a little indication here of, I guess, engine condition. If we look at it, it looks actually really nice. So a little bit of carbon, but nothing off the spectrum of what we want to see on a spark plug. This is one of those valve in base engines, and you know, I can see right on the, I guess that's the intake valve right there. I can kind of see it, but we won't see too much more. So I'll just lightly put that on. I might go ahead and put a little bit of oil down there just to give it a chance, and let's check the gasoline first, and then we'll plop a couple drops down there. So like I said, this thing technically ran, I guess, a couple years ago, at least 5 years ago it hasn't ran, and the gas is absolutely dry, which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I mean, this float has seen better days. It's a little rusty, so there might be a little bit of water in there, condensation. I mean, it is a plastic tank. Not that that makes any difference for condensation, but anyhow, it looks a little scuzzy down there. Let's get a flashlight and see. All right, so not sure how well you guys can see down there with the, even I can't see very well, but yeah, that tank is, well, the tank is not too bad. There's a little bit of residue, some varnish or some grime, that shiny stuff, but the rest of it looks pretty dry, and we'll call it relatively clean. And I think this tank, well, I was gonna say it's easy to take out and flush, but yeah, maybe not so much. Should have to take this thing off and then pull the whole tank up. But yeah, we'll see if we want to do that. I think for today, if we're just focusing on getting this guy going, we might just end up bypassing the tank and putting a temporary tank, gravity fed, right into that carburetor. Let's go ahead as promised and put a couple drops of oil down the spark plug hole. I got this 3-in-1. I don't know if it's any good, but it says that it lubricates and penetrates rust and whatnot, so. Get a couple drops down there, and you know, worst comes to worst, it'll smoke when we start it, but might give it a little bit of a hand if it hasn't seen any oil for a little while. Just it'll just persuade it to a better start. So I checked the positive lead coming down from this solenoid, and to check and see it's properly attached to the base or the lead on the starter. So we're gonna go ahead. This is an easier access point for me. I'm gonna put the positive 12 volts over here, ground it, and get the power, get the booster pack on, and see if it turns over. Here goes nothing. Very nice, very nice. So it turned over. That's really great news. It means that that starter, at least without any compression, because I got the plug out, turns the engine over. So we might be just looking at, you know, it might have been as silly as a starter solenoid, but we'll have to get into that. While we have our setup and the plug out, let's get a compression gauge on there and check and see what the cylinder compression is. You know, we did put some oil in it, so it's going to give us the best possible results. But it'll give us an idea of the condition of this engine. That's 75 pounds. All right, so that's 75 is not exactly great, but it's what we got. So let's carry on. So I figured while we're here once again with our makeshift starter setup, let's check and see if we got spark. I'm not going to check directly on the plug. I got this little indicator because this guy doesn't have a boot and stuff, and I don't feel like getting a shock this morning. So let's see if we got any spark. And we do. All right, so even with all this shoddy wiring, we actually have spark. I feel tempted to put a bit of gas in this thing and just see if it fires. And you know, this is going along better than expected, and that's never a good sign. All right, so we're just gonna put a wee little bit of gasoline right into the spark plug hole. Come on, that's enough. And yeah, the machine is hydrostatic, and I checked the pedal, and it does kind of return to neutral. So we're gonna keep away, because if this thing starts up and it starts creeping on us, I mean, worst comes to worst, it'll only run for probably about 2 seconds. But anyhow, let's check and see if it wants to go. All right. All right, so it wants to start. That's, I'm actually a little bit surprised. Let's check and see. Maybe that carburetor has nothing in it. No gas, no old gas, no varnish. Let's get a temporary tank on there, get some gas in there, and see if we can get it to run pretty much as is. All right, so on second thought, I moved this, I guess, air filter hose over to take a little look inside the carburetor, and look at that. A whole bunch of lawn debris. And then I thought to myself, you know what? In our haste to get this thing going with the temporary tank, you know, we might be overlooking some issues that could cause us some damage or extra work down the line. You know, why don't we just go ahead and get this carb off? It's not very hard to do. We'll clean it out. I mean, you know, most things that don't run for a year or two have to have their carbs sort of gone through if you want them to run properly. And I'm sure this guy's no exception. We might also take the time to just remove these cowls. You know, a lot of this stuff is super loose, like, so before we end up breaking anything, we'll try to get some more, you know, the proper bolts back in there. We'll take the cowls off first, make sure there's no hidden rat's nests within there, and then we'll get back. We'll still use the temporary tank, but at least we know we'll have odds on our side to get this thing, you know, I want this thing to be relatively reliable. I don't want to just get it started to start it. I think we've already proved that it wants to start. So, all right, let's get that carb off, get the cowls off, and we'll take it from there. So what do we have before our very eyes over here? So we've managed to expose the whole top area of the motor, and there is a little bit of debris left over. Nothing significant, but still, now that we're there, we can clean it out. This side piece over here doesn't appear to be held on by anything, so we can go ahead and remove that as well. Yeah, giving us, you know, nice access. The muffler looks like it's still solidly threaded into the cylinder head. This looks good over here. This has a little bracket, a little brace that looks good too. So yeah, everything looks all right. I had to get a wrench on the inside because this guy was spinning. I might go ahead and just tack these on. Same thing. I think there was a little strip screw hole up at the top. I'll also make sure this shroud here is loose at the top, and they're held on by 2 bolts, one on each side at the bottom, and they appear to be there. It also gives us a little bit better access to the carburetor, which is the next thing we're going to take out. I'll fire up the compressor as well, blow this all off properly, and yeah, get some proper bolts into here just so nothing starts wiggling around, because this stuff strips out, you know, fairly easily. If things are loose, it'll end up stripping. If we go on over to the other side, nothing too special there. This shroud over here, I guess, would come off if I wanted to get these bolts off from the bottom, but we'll leave them on there. I got access over here to blow this out. Look at this, like a little mouse domicile in here, so we'll get that out. And yeah, so blow it out, get the carb off, and we're coming along. So I'm no Briggs and Stratton buff, but I have toiled on these things sometimes before. You can take them off either two ways, either from this bottom piece over here, or where it's connected up to the cylinder head, or the cylinder, I should say. I always like to take them off from down here. I guess it's a little bit, I don't know. Is it easy or not really? It's just kind of my preference. Are we missing a gasket in there? I think it might just be an optical illusion. Might be getting real thin. You know what? Before we take this off, we'll worry about getting this gas line off while we still have a bit of rigidity on our system. And yeah, these things come off real easy. I mean, it's really just your gas line, your choke. There's a governor linkage that comes up to your throttle, as well as, I think, your throttle. No, just the governor linkage, so that's it. Yeah, they come off real easy. Real nice carburetor to work on. Nice and simple. But this gas line is pretty stiff. But it's turning. It's turning. There we go. All right, that's good. So now we can go ahead and take these two screws out. Okay, moved over here, and basically that little rod in the back, we just fish it out. Come on, out you come. Out you come, little rod. Yeah, it does have a gasket. Gotta get it almost 90 degrees to the rod, and you don't want to bend the rod, so you gotta be gentle. It's gonna go easier if that choke's disconnected. All right, I'll get the choke out first. Gotta get for the big guns. Get the big guns out here. There we go. Get this guy out. And we're done. It's out. So look what we discovered while we were blowing this guy out. The fuel pump right over here. Yeah, because if you look at it, you know, remember when I mentioned before, you know, my temporary tank would be gravity fed. This guy is not gravity fed, because I guess we'll see it from the other side. You know, in order for it to be gravity fed, the level of fuel has to be higher than your carburetor. In our case, our carburetor is right about here. If you could imagine, you know, only the top, let's say, you know, the top third of our tank would be technically gravity fed. And, you know, it's unrealistic to think that you would always be running 100% full. That's a pretty deep tank. It has two pockets, one on either side, and I think it goes off over here. So it has a fuel pump. You know, all the snowmobile guys out there, it's like a McCuney style pump. Whether or not it is a McCuney, I don't know. I think it might be, but anyways, we'll check that out when we get this guy running with its tank. But yeah, so the fuel pump lives just down over there, and that's one extra thing that can go wrong when you're trying to get them started, right? You know, you can have a good carb and a good tank, and then sure enough, your fuel pump, the diaphragm is dry, or there's gunk in there, whatever. So, you know, if you want to eliminate that hassle, just get a tank higher than your engine or your carburetor at least, and have it gravity fed. And that's what we shall be doing today, right after we rebuild that carburetor. Hey, what's up? A quick little intermission to this video. I was editing it. I mean, right now I'm a couple weeks past when I was filming all the other footage you just seen. And I just realized that if I add the carb rebuild into this video, it's going to add like another 20 minutes to it or so. So I'm going to make a separate video for the carb rebuild. It's already going to be posted by the time you're seeing this. You can go check it out. I'll put a link to that video at the end of this one. So we're just going to fast forward right away to the brand new rebuilt carb, and we're going to put it back on this machine. That's how I decided to do it. All right, so first thing we want to do is get that governor linkage hooked back up. That's the trickiest guy. Just, there we go, loop it in. And now we'll get our gasket approximately to where we want it. Get our 2 screws in there. We can try to line up our gasket. Make sure it sort of goes into place. Number 1 and number 2. We're almost done. So tighten it on. Good. We'll get this breather hose back in. Okay, that's good. And then we're not going to hook up the gas line, the original gas line. We're actually going to just leave that guy there, and we'll see if there's anything left in the tank. Technically, when it starts up, it should start pumping gas out of that, and we'll sort of put it aside and see if it does anything. I might actually put a vice grip on it just for now, so nothing actually squirts out, but then we can check and see maybe that fuel pump works if there's something in the bottom of this tank. When we were looking at it before, the second area of the tank is slightly higher than this one over here. So there might actually be a little bit of residue of gas down there. For the choke, let's leave the choke off, and that way there we can activate it. So we'll really just leave it as is. We'll hook up our temporary tank, and we'll see if this guy wants to run on its own power. So here's the temporary tank setup. We just got a standard little small engine gas tank with a vice grip hooked on higher than the carburetor. We just got a piece of flexible gas hose going down into the carb. I put a little tie wrap to make sure it's nice and tight. I plugged up this guy, which is the old fuel line. We'll see it later if there's anything that comes out of it. So carb's ready to go. We're going to keep all the shrouding off because I didn't feel like putting it back on. We can see kind of more of what's going on, and also I'm lazy, so so that's it. I think we're ready to see if this guy wants to run. Okay, well that actually went okay. Engine seems like it's running all right. One thing I noticed is that, you know, this is the throttle that would have been at some point up around here. The throttle moves this guy up and down. I know that that's like, this is full throttle all the way up and then idle would be down. At first I was pulling it up and it wasn't really doing anything. Then I passed my hand down around here and I touched the governor. Click. Can I do it? Yeah. Yeah, the governor is like, and the governor just kind of unstuck and then boom, it revved up. And then it was sort of, I don't know, something fishy about that governor. You know, so then what I did was I ended up just giving it a little bit more idle, so that's why it was kind of at that mid idle, or, you know, I guess in the upper end of its RPM range. And I was able to test it. Good news is the hydraulics at first glance appear to work. So goes forwards, goes backwards, and added bonus, the 2 cylinders, that one and that one, do lift the deck up, but it doesn't hold it. I don't know if it should hold it. I think it should, but anyways, that's hydraulics. That's for another time. We also checked, I took the vice grips off that original fuel line, and either that tank is bone dry or the pump's no good. You know, either way, whatever, we got this little setup for now. So anyways, that it wouldn't have ran on whatever was in it, or lack of what was in it right now. For today, I'm happy that we got it running. At least we sort of see that this thing is, you know, I guess we'll say 50% operational. All right, folks, well, that's about all the time that I have today for this old rust bucket over here. I am happy that we got it running. I mean, that's great. It's the first step to possibly many to do something cool with this as a project. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to be using it to cut grass. Haven't figured out what I'm going to do yet. I got some ideas, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next one. Signing out.